News of the Battle of Kepler 442 spread across the galaxy like wildfire, carried by quantum communication arrays and trade vessel gossip networks alike. What had been intended as a routine hegemony expansion operation had become the most significant military upset in recorded galactic history. On the Galactic Council Station orbiting Proxima Centauri b, emergency sessions convened around the clock as representatives from dozens of species tried to understand what had just happened. The holographic display at the center of the Great Chamber showed the battle statistics over and over, but the numbers seemed too incredible to believe. 47 vessels, repeated Counselor Vexthren of the Altarian Collective, her 4 eyes blinking in disbelief. 47 human vessels defeated over 2,000 hegemony warships with 0 losses on their side. The casualty ratios are impossible, insisted Counselor Growl of the Scythian Empire. No species in galactic history has achieved anything approaching these results. Either the humans possess weapons technology centuries ahead of the rest of us, or they're simply better at war than we are, interrupted Counselor Trilsep of the Andromedian League. I've been reviewing the tactical recordings. Their ship movements, their coordination, their weapon systems, everything about their approach to combat is revolutionary. The debate continued for hours, but the underlying question remained the same. What did the emergence of humanity as a galactic military power mean for the established order? Meanwhile, in the Kepler 442 system, Admiral Reeves was dealing with the immediate aftermath of the most lopsided victory in human military history. The logistics alone were staggering, processing nearly 1,500 hegemony prisoners, securing 600 destroyed vessels worth of salvage, and coordinating the evacuation of over 300 damaged Zephyrian civilian ships. Admiral, reported Captain Williams from the UES Indomitable, we've completed prisoner transfer operations. The hegemony crews are surprisingly cooperative. Reeves wasn't surprised. The human demonstration of overwhelming military superiority had shattered more than enemy ships. It had shattered the hegemony's entire worldview. For generations, they had ruled through fear and superior numbers. The concept of being so completely outclassed by a smaller force was beyond their understanding. What about their leadership? Reeves asked. Supreme Commander Thask has requested a formal meeting. He says he has information about hegemony operations that might interest us. An hour later, Reeves sat across from the former hegemony commander in the Prometheus's secure briefing room. Thask had been stripped of his ceremonial armor and weapons, but he still cut an imposing figure. His multiple arms were restrained, but his eyes burned with a mixture of hatred and grudging respect. Human, Thask began, his voice carefully modulated. What you accomplished today should have been impossible. My species has conquered 47 star systems through superior numbers and overwhelming firepower. We have never been defeated so... completely. Your point? Reeves asked calmly. My point is that you have changed everything. The hegemony ruled through fear, but we feared nothing because we had never encountered anything stronger than ourselves. Now, Thask paused, struggling with concepts that challenged his entire worldview. Now the galaxy knows that there is something to fear, you. Reeves leaned forward slightly. We didn't come here to inspire fear. We came here to save innocent lives. That may be your intention, but the effect will be the same. Every species in the galaxy will now wonder, are the humans friends or enemies? Can they be trusted? Should they be feared? Your victory today will reshape galactic politics for generations. As if to prove Thask's point, the communication arrays of the human fleet were already being overwhelmed with incoming transmissions. Trade proposals from merchant cartels. Military alliance offers from smaller species. Surrender terms from hegemony-affiliated systems. And increasingly, requests for protection from civilian populations who saw humanity as their salvation from various threats. Sir, called Commander Park from the bridge, we're receiving a priority transmission from the Zephyrian Republic capital world. It's their Prime Minister. The main display shimmered, revealing an elderly Zephyrian with the elaborate robes of high office. Prime Minister Veltar's voice carried the weight of profound gratitude and equally profound awe. Admiral Reeves, I am Prime Minister Veltar of the Zephyrian Republic. What you and your people have done for us today goes beyond mere gratitude. You have given us back our future. We're glad we could help, Prime Minister, Reeves replied. Your people showed remarkable courage in the face of impossible odds. Admiral, I must ask, what do you require from us in return? What is humanity's price for this miracle? Reeves smiled. Prime Minister, we don't have a price. We came because it was the right thing to do. All we ask is that when others are in need, you remember this day and help them if you can. The silence that followed this statement stretched across light years as the Zephyrian leadership tried to process the concept of aid without strings attached. In a galaxy where every favor came with a price and every alliance had hidden costs, humanity's approach to interstellar relations was genuinely revolutionary. Admiral, Veltar said finally, the Zephyrian Republic formally requests to establish full diplomatic relations with humanity. We would be honored to be among Earth's first allies in our region of space. The honor would be ours, Prime Minister. Over the following weeks, as the human fleet escorted the rescued Zephyrian civilians back to their home systems, the ramifications of the battle continued to unfold across the galaxy. The hegemony, faced with the complete annihilation of their most powerful fleet, began withdrawing from occupied systems rather than risk another encounter with human forces, species that had lived under the shadow of hegemony expansion for generations, suddenly found themselves free to chart their own destinies. Trade routes that had been closed for decades reopened. Scientific expeditions that had been deemed too dangerous were suddenly feasible. The balance of power in this entire sector of the galaxy had shifted overnight, but perhaps the most significant change was in how galactic civilization viewed the concept of intervention on behalf of the innocent. For millennia, the standard diplomatic response to atrocities like the hegemonies, civilian massacres had been carefully worded. Condemnations and economic sanctions that never seemed to stop the violence humanity had demonstrated. A different approach entirely on the bridge of the UES Prometheus. As the fleet prepared for its return journey to human space, Admiral Reeves found himself contemplating the weight of responsibility that came with his species' newfound galactic prominence. Admiral, said Commander Park, we're receiving reports that 17 different species have formally requested human military assistance with various security threats. Everything from pirate raids to full-scale invasions. And? Command wants to know how we should respond. We can't be everywhere at once, and we certainly can't become the galaxy's police force. Reeves nodded thoughtfully. This was the question that would define humanity's role in galactic civilization. How do you use overwhelming military superiority responsibly? Draft a response to Galactic Command, he said finally. We'll evaluate each request on its merits, prioritizing civilian protection and clear cases of aggression against peaceful populations. We'll also begin training allied species in human tactics and providing defensive technologies to those who need them. The goal isn't to fight everyone's battles for them, it's to give them the tools to fight their own battles effectively. Captain, HFY of the rescued Zephyrian fleet had requested one final meeting before the human ships departed for home. As he stood once again in the reception bay of the Prometheus, he carried with him a datapad containing something unprecedented in galactic history. Admiral Reeves, he began, my government has asked me to present you with something. It's a complete database of hegemony military installations, supply routes, and operational plans that we compiled during our years of resistance. Reeves accepted the datapad with surprise. Captain, this intelligence must be incredibly valuable to your own military. It is. But Admiral, we've learned something important from watching you and your people. Strength without wisdom is tyranny. Wisdom without strength is helplessness. But strength and wisdom combined. HFY paused, searching for the right words. Combined, they become justice. You're giving this to us because you trust us to use it wisely. We're giving this to you because you've already proven that you will. When you had us completely at your mercy, when you could have demanded anything from us, you asked for nothing. When you could have used your overwhelming military superiority to conquer, you chose to liberate instead. As the human fleet finally departed the Kepler 442 system, they left behind a fundamentally changed galaxy. The hegemony's reign of terror was effectively over, broken not by years of grinding warfare but by a single demonstration of superior force applied with moral clarity, but more importantly, they had established a new paradigm for interstellar relations. The galaxy had learned that there was now a species that would cross the void to protect the innocent, ask nothing in return, and possess the military capability to make such protection meaningful. In the months that the human fleet emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation, their ships materializing in the Kepler 442 system like ghosts stepping into reality. The transition from jump space to normal space was seamless, a testament to human engineering that immediately caught the attention of both hegemony and Zephyrian sensor operators. Admiral, we have visual contact with the hegemony fleet, reported Commander Park from the tactical station of the UES Prometheus. 2,143 vessels confirmed. They're arranged in a standard galactic encirclement pattern around the Zephyrian convoy. Admiral Reeves studied the three-dimensional tactical display floating above the bridge's central console. The hegemony ships formed a vast sphere around a cluster of much smaller, clearly civilian Zephyrian vessels. Red icons indicated ships that were already damaged or destroyed. Time was running out. What's the status of the civilians? Reeves asked. 312 Zephyrian ships remaining, sir. They're clustered around what appears to be their flagship, trying to use overlapping defensive fields. Smart thinking, but those fields won't hold much longer against sustained bombardment. Captain Elena Vasquez's voice crackled over the fleet communication channel. Admiral, the hegemony commander is hailing us on standard galactic frequencies. They're demanding our immediate withdrawal. Put them through, Reeves ordered. The forward display shimmered, revealing the imposing figure of Supreme Commander Vasquez. The hegemony officer was typical of his species, towering, heavily armored with multiple arms that ended in wicked-looking claws. His voice was a guttural growl that the translation system rendered into clipped, hostile English. Unknown vessels, you are trespassing in hegemony space and interfering with a lawful military operation. Withdraw immediately or face annihilation. You are outnumbered 50 to 1. This is your only warning. Reeves stepped forward, his hands clasped behind his back, his expression calm and professional. Supreme Commander Thask, I presume? I am Admiral Marcus Reeves of the United Earth Space Navy. Those are civilian vessels under your guns, and we're here to ensure their safe passage to neutral space. Stand down your weapons and allow us to evacuate the non-combatants. Vask's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. You dare to make demands? 47 primitive ships against the might of the hegemony Third Assault Fleet. Your species is either remarkably brave or remarkably stupid. We prefer to think of it as remarkably persistent, Reeves replied evenly. You have 60 seconds to begin withdrawing your forces. After that, we'll consider you hostile and act accordingly. The alien commander's eyes widened in disbelief. You're threatening me? Human, your ships will be dust before you can fire a single shot. 50 seconds, Reeves said calmly. Then cut the transmission across the human fleet. Final battle preparations were completed with the mechanical precision that came from endless training and absolute confidence in their equipment and each other. Unlike the hegemony forces, which were primarily conscripts from conquered worlds, every human aboard these ships was a volunteer who had chosen to stand between the innocent and those who would harm them. 30 seconds to weapons free, announced Commander Park on the UES Indomitable. Captain Jessica Williams walked among her gun crews, offering words of encouragement and checking final preparations. Her ship carried humanity's newest weapon system, Quantum, torpedoes that could phase shift through conventional shields and deliver devastating explosive yields directly to enemy hulls. Remember, we're not here to start a war, she told her crews. "We're here to end one that someone else started. Make every shot count." 10 seconds to weapons free, Admiral," Park called out. Reeves looked once more at the tactical display. The hegemony ships hadn't moved. If anything, they seemed to be powering up additional weapon systems, confident that their overwhelming numerical advantage would carry the day. They were about to learn the first rule of fighting humans. Numbers don't matter when your enemy refuses to follow the same rules you do. All ships, weapons free. Execute attack pattern Omega. Show them what Deathworlders can do. The human fleet exploded into motion with a speed and coordination that defied galactic military doctrine. Instead of forming traditional battle lines or attempting to match the enemy's formations, the 47 human vessels scattered like a bursting firework, each ship following its own seemingly chaotic trajectory toward the hegemony sphere. "They're scattering," laughed Supreme Commander Thask. "They're running away from each other. Target the largest vessels, first we'll pick them off one by one." But the humans weren't scattering randomly. Each ship's flight path had been calculated with mathematical precision, creating a complex three-dimensional pattern that would bring them into optimal firing positions at precisely the same moment. It was a maneuver that required split-second timing and absolute trust between ship commanders or something. The rigidly hierarchical hegemony couldn't begin to understand. The used Prometheus dove toward the enemy formation at maximum acceleration, its hull groaning under forces that would have crushed any other species. But humans had evolved on a high-gravity death world where everything was trying to kill them, and they built their ships to reflect that reality. "First salvo in 10 seconds, announced the weapons officer. "Target priority is enemy command ships," Reeves ordered. "Take out their coordination capability first." The human ships opened fire simultaneously, their weapons unleashing destruction that made a mockery of conventional galactic warfare. Quantum torpedoes phased through hegemony shields like they weren't even there, delivering antimatter warheads directly to enemy hulls. Plasma lances carved through armor plating that should have been impervious to energy weapons. And the newest addition to the human arsenal, gravitational disruptors that could literally tear ships apart at the atomic level, turned entire enemy squadrons into expanding clouds of debris. "Impossible!" screamed Thask as his formation began dissolving around him. "How are their weapons penetrating our shields?" The answer was simple but beyond hegemony understanding. While most galactic species had developed their technology along predictable paths, following scientific principles laid down by ancient civilizations, humans approached problems from completely different angles. They didn't just build weapons that could destroy enemy ships, they built weapons that made enemy defenses irrelevant. Captain Vasquez smiled grimly as her ship's quantum torpedoes found their targets. 3 hegemony heavy cruisers simply ceased to exist. Their matter converted directly to energy in brilliant flashes that lit up the darkness of space. "Ma'am, we're getting emergency transmissions from the Zephyrian ships," reported her communications officer. "They're asking if we're angels sent by their gods." "Tell them we're just humans," Vasquez replied. "And we don't like bullies." The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted exactly 17 minutes. The hegemony fleet, despite its overwhelming numerical superiority, found itself facing an enemy that fought like nothing in their experience. Human ships moved with impossible grace through the three-dimensional battlefield, their crews pulling maneuvers that should have liquefied anyone aboard. They fired weapons that bypassed every known defensive system, used tactics that turned the hegemony's numbers against them, and displayed a level of coordination that suggested they were operating with a shared consciousness. Supreme Commander Thask's flagship, the Inevitable Conquest, found itself facing 3 human destroyers that had somehow penetrated to the center of his formation. The much smaller human ships should have been easy prey for his massive dreadnought. Instead, they danced around his vessel like fighters around a lumbering giant, their weapon systems dissecting his ship with surgical precision. His shields collapsed, his weapons were systematically destroyed, and his crew was reduced to panic screaming as systems failed around them. "All ships, withdraw." "Withdraw?" Das screamed into his communications array, but there was nowhere to run. The humans had somehow surrounded his entire fleet, cutting off escape routes with a precision that spoke of tactical genius. "This is Admiral Reeves to the Hegemony Fleet," came the calm human voice over the communication channel. "You are defeated. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded for prisoner processing. Any ship that attempts to continue hostilities will be destroyed." Across the battlefield, Hegemony ships began powering down their weapons and raising surrender flags. In 17 minutes, 47 human vessels had destroyed over 600 enemy ships and forced the surrender of the remaining 1,500. The casualty ratio was so lopsided that it would be dismissed as propaganda by anyone who hadn't witnessed it firsthand. But the Zephyrians had witnessed it. From their positions in the center of what had been an enemy encirclement, they watched in amazement as their rescuers moved among the wreckage, systematically destroying unmanned ships that posed navigation hazards and organizing the massive prisoner transfer operation. Merchant Captain Zephyr, the senior Zephyrian officer present, stared at his sensor displays in disbelief. How is this possible? They were outnumbered 50-1. His sensor operator, a young female named Trilka, looked up from her console with wonder in her large eyes. "Captain, I've been monitoring their communications during the battle. They were..." The emergency beacon cut through the void of space like a knife through silk, its desperate pulse reaching the outer sensors of the human Deep Space Monitoring Station Cerberus Prime. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chun leaned forward in her chair, her coffee growing cold as she analyzed the incoming transmission. "Ma'am, you need to see this," called out Ensign Rodriguez from the communications array. "We're picking up a distress signal from the Kepler 442 system. It's not human." Chun's eyebrows rose. First contact protocols had been gathering dust for decades, theoretical procedures that most officers never expected to use. She moved to Rodriguez's station, watching as the computer began decoding the alien transmission. The signal was desperate, frantic even. Through the universal mathematical constants and basic pictographs, a story of terror emerged. The Zephyrians, a peaceful merchant species, had been conducting routine trade negotiations in the Kepler 442 system when their convoy was ambushed by the Hegemony, a militant alliance of species that had been expanding aggressively across this sector of the galaxy. "How many ships are we talking about?" Chun asked, her tactical mind already racing. "According to this, there are approximately 400 Zephyrian civilian vessels trapped in the system. They're being systematically destroyed or captured by a hegemony fleet of over 2,000 warships." Rodriguez's voice was grim. "Ma'am, they're asking for help from anyone who can hear them. They say their own military is 3 weeks away, and they'll all be dead or enslaved by then." Chun stared at the translation scrolling across her screen. 400 ships full of innocent civilians facing annihilation. The Zephyrians had no way of knowing that their desperate plea had reached Earth's newest allies in the galactic community, a species the rest of the galaxy was just beginning to understand. "Get me Admiral Reeves at Terra Command, Priority Alpha," Chun ordered. "And Rodriguez? Start calculating jump coordinates for the entire Third Fleet." Within 6 hours, the response was swift and decisive. Admiral Marcus Reeves, a grizzled veteran of humanity's expansion into deep space, stood before the holographic display in his command center on Luna Station. Around him, his staff worked with the efficient precision that had made the human military legendary among Earth's few alien contacts. "Ladies and gentlemen," Reeves announced to his assembled fleet commanders via quantum communication, "we have our first major interstellar crisis. The Zephyrian Republic, a peaceful trading nation, is under attack by a hostile force called the Hegemony. 400 civilian vessels are trapped and facing destruction." Captain Jessica Williams of the battleship UES Indomitable raised her hand. "Sir, what's our authorization for intervention in alien conflicts?" The galactic accords we signed 3 months ago include mutual defense clauses for civilian protection, Reeves replied. But more importantly, this is who we are. We don't abandon the innocent, regardless of species. The room filled with grim nods of agreement. Humanity had learned hard lessons about standing by while others suffered. Never again would be their motto, whether the victims were human or alien. The Third Fleet will jump in 8 hours, Reeves continued. I want full battle readiness, but remember our primary objective is civilian evacuation, not starting a war. However, if the hegemony wants to dance, we'll show them how Deathworlders waltz. Across human space, the mobilization began. The Third Fleet consisted of 47 vessels, a tiny fraction of the hegemony force they would face. But these weren't ordinary ships, and their crews weren't ordinary beings. The flagship UES Prometheus, a massive dreadnought built with human engineering principles, began charging its jump drives. Captain Elena Vasquez walked the corridors of her ship, observing the controlled chaos of pre-battle preparation. Her crew moved with deadly efficiency, each person knowing their role in the complex dance of modern space warfare. "Captain," called her tactical officer. "Commander Park. Intelligence is coming in from our deep space reconnaissance drones. The hegemony fleet consists primarily of Kratterch heavy cruisers and Vex-High destroyers. Standard galactic military design, lots of firepower, but focused on overwhelming numbers rather than individual ship capability." Vasquez smiled grimly. "They're about to learn why humans don't play by standard galactic rules. What's the status on our new weapon systems?" "All quantum torpedo tubes loaded and ready, ma'am. The new plasma lance batteries are showing green across all systems." "And Captain?" Park's grin was predatory. "Engineering reports the new reactive armor plating is performing beyond expectations. The human ships were different from anything else in the galaxy. Where other species built vessels optimized for specific roles, humans built ships that could adapt, improvise, and overcome. Their weapons were devastating, their defenses nearly impenetrable, and their tactics were completely unpredictable to enemies used to conventional galactic warfare, but perhaps most importantly, their crews were forged in the crucible of Earth, a death world where everything from the weather to the wildlife was actively trying to kill you. Humans didn't just survive in hostile environments. They thrived in them. As the countdown to jump approached 0, Admiral Reeves stood on the bridge of the UES Prometheus, looking out at the assembled fleet through the viewports. 47 ships carrying 12,000 of humanity's finest warriors, ready to cross the galaxy to save people they'd never met from a species they'd never encountered. "All ships report ready for jump." "Admiral," announced the navigation officer. "Very well," Reeves replied, his voice carrying across the fleet communications. "This is Admiral Reeves to all vessels. Today, we show the galaxy what it means to mess with innocent people when humans are watching. Remember your training, trust your shipmates, and let's bring those civilians home. All ships, execute jump on my mark." The space around the human fleet began to ripple and twist as 47 jump drives activated simultaneously. Reality bent, folded, and suddenly the ships were elsewhere, racing through hyperspace toward a distant star system where hundreds of alien civilians waited for salvation they didn't even know was coming. In the depths of space, quantum communications arrays carried word of the human response to intelligence networks across a dozen species. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what these strange newcomers from the death world called Earth would do when faced with their first major test on the interstellar stage. Some species whispered that the humans would turn back when they saw the overwhelming odds. Others, who had witnessed human determination firsthand, simply shook their heads and prepared to observe history in the making. The hegemony, confident in their numerical superiority and the terror their name inspired across known space, continued their methodical destruction of Zephyrian ships, unaware that their victims' desperate plea had reached the one species in the galaxy that considered impossible odds to be merely interesting challenges. 3 days later, long-range sensors in the Kepler 442 system detected the approaching human fleet. The readings made no sense to the hegemony commander's only 47 ships, racing toward a force of over 2,000 with what could only be described as reckless abandon. Supreme Commander Vask of the Hegemony 3rd Assault Fleet studied the tactical display with confusion and growing irritation. Who are these fools? Do they not understand mathematics? His intelligence officer, a nervous Vexhai named Kresh, consulted his datapad. Unknown species, Supreme Commander? The ships don't match any known galactic designs. But, sir, their energy signatures are ... unusual. Unusual how? They're much higher than expected for ships of their size, sir. And their approach vector is completely direct. No evasive maneuvers, no attempt at stealth. They're coming straight at us at maximum velocity? Vask's mandibles clicked in amusement. Then they're either completely insane or completely stupid. Either way, they'll provide good target practice for our gunners. Order all ships to maintain formation and prepare to engage these newcomers. We'll deal with them quickly, then finish with the Zephyrian stragglers. What Vask didn't understand, what no one in the hegemony could possibly comprehend, was that he wasn't facing a conventional galactic power playing by conventional galactic rules. He was about to encounter humanity at war, a species that had crawled out of history's bloodiest death, whirled and decided that their unique brand of controlled violence was exactly what the galaxy needed. The human fleet continued its relentless approach, their ships running dark except for the minimal navigation lights required to avoid collision. In the depths of their hulls, weapon systems that pushed the boundaries of known physics hummed with barely contained energy. In their corridors, soldiers and spacers who had trained for this moment their entire lives made final preparations, and at the center of it all, Admiral Reeves stood calm and ready, about to show the galaxy why you never, ever threaten innocent people when humans are listening.